Hello everyone. Well, I hope everybody is enjoying themselves. I'm here to poke you a little. I just don't want you to be comfortable. You know I always don't like it when you're comfortable. So today I'm going to teach you a little trick on division of numbers with decimals. Many of you get really scared when you're given problems to solve and it involves decimals. For example, something like this. 6.4 divided by 0.04 or 2.25 divided by 1.5. Where do you even start from? Now watch this. First of all, if you were asked to do something like 24 divided by 6, you do it very fast. You answer out before, right? Or if you were asked to divide 3 by 4, if you use long division, you would arrive at 0.75. It will be very easy for you to do any of these. Why? Because they are whole numbers. There is no decimals involved. So you could change whole numbers, which are fractions, to decimals, just because there are no decimals involved. But when decimals are involved, what would you do? So let's solve the first question I wrote on the board, and that was 6.4 divided by 0.04. How do we approach this? Very simple. You start with writing left at the top, and you write right at the bottom. So the numerator has left, the denominator has right. The next question you ask yourself is, how many decimal places do each of them have? The numerator has one decimal place, 1 dp, and the denominator has 2 decimal places. The next thing you do is you subtract the smaller decimal place from the larger number of decimal places. And so we're just saying 2 minus 1, which is going to give us 1 decimal place. So you save this information for later. Now, after doing this, you are going to treat this division as if they were whole numbers. So just remove the signs and imagine them to be whole numbers. It means that at the top we'll be having 64 and below we'll be having 4. Just pick the numbers and treat them as if they were whole numbers. 64 divided by 4 is going to give you 16. Very simple. But 16 is not the answer to 6.4 divided by 0.04. So what do? We come back to what we did here. 1 decimal place. So we are going to move the point that we can see in 16 1 decimal place. First of all, can you see any points in 16? Let me wait for you to think. Can you see a point in 16? Yes, we can see a point. How do we know there's a point? Because any whole number that stands alone has an invisible point 0. 16.0 is still 16. 2.0 is still 2. 3.0 is still 3. So, because I want to use this now, I'm going to make it visible. It's just the same thing as 16. So, I wouldn't necessarily need to put my point 0. 0 doesn't really mean anything. So, 16 points is the same thing. Now, I'm going to move 1 decimal place. Now, I'm going to move this point 1 decimal place. But which direction am I moving? Is it going to be right or towards the left? So that's the reason we wrote this here. We look for the one that has the larger number of decimal places, and it's the denominator because it has 2 decimal places, right? So that means we're going to move 1 decimal place towards the right. If the numerator had the larger number of decimal places, we're going to move 1 decimal place towards the left. But this time around, it's the denominator that has the larger number of decimal places. So we move it towards the right. So I'm taking this point and I'm moving right. So I have moved this point from this place down to this place. But I have created a space here. Whenever a space is created, as you move points, you're going to put 0 in between that space. And so your final answer is 160. It means that 6.4 divided by 0.04 is 160. That's our answer. As simple as that. Let's take a second example. Perhaps you will understand it better if you don't get this one. Okay. Let's solve 2.25 divided by 1.5. 2.25 divided by 1.5. Simple. I'm going to write left here. I'm going to put my right here. How many decimal places can I see here? I see 2 decimal places. How many can I see here? I see 1 decimal place, 1 decimal place. So I'm going to remove the smaller one from the bigger one. That's 2 minus 1, which gives me that gives me 1 decimal place. Good. I save this. Now, I'm going to treat these as if they were just whole numbers. That means 225 divided by 15. 225 divided by 15. And 225 divided by 15 is 15. 15 times 15 gives you 225. So 15 is not the answer to 2.25 divided by 1.5, right? It's only the answer to this one here. So let's now come back to what we had at first. 1 decimal place. And which one has the larger number of decimal places? The numerator has 2 decimal places and this denominator has only 1. So the larger number of decimal places is the numerator. It means we're going to move 1 decimal place towards the left. So this is 15, which also means 15.0. So I'm going to move this towards the left. Once towards the left, 1 decimal place, which means I move the point from here in between 1 and 5, and that makes it 1.5. And that is the answer to this. It means that 1.5 goes into 2.25 1.5 times. So 1.5 is the answer. We will take yet another example. So let's take this very interesting example, 45 divided by, let's say, 2.5. 45 divided by 2.5. Okay, we write left here and we put right here. So we ask ourselves, how many decimal places can you find in 45? There is no decimal place, so you put 0 decimal places. How many can you find here? It's only 1 decimal place, so we put 1 decimal place. So 1 minus 0 gives you 1. So we keep that. And then we treat this as whole numbers. Already 45 is a whole number, so we have 45 over 25. We're going to use long division to do this, and it becomes easier because there are no decimals here. So it's easy to use long division. So you have 25 is outside, 45 is inside. 25 into 45 goes once. We put our 1 here. 1 times 25 gives you 25. So 45 minus 25, that is 20. 25 into 20 is not possible, so we put a point here, we add a 0. 25 into 200 gives you 8. So 8 times 25 is still going to be 200. So it means that 25 goes into 45 1.8 times. So this is 1.8. But now, 1.8 is not the answer to 45 over 2.5. Remember, don't ever lose sight of that. So we are going to come back to what we did here. 1 decimal place, right? Now, which of them here had a higher number of decimal places? It is the denominator. It has 1 decimal place while the numerator has no decimal places. So we're going to move 1 decimal place to the right. So we're going to move this point. There's a point here already. So we're simply going to move this point towards the right, and it comes here. And the final answer to this is 18. It means that 2.5 goes into 45 18 times. We're taking pains to learn this because at the GSS level, you do not use calculators. You use this. So stick this, let it stick to your head. I'm going to give you some sums to do now, just a few sums, and Let's see what you have. All right.